Hey there, Goa fans. This is Mark DJ Solitaire here with episode 142 of Retro Goa Explorations, my series in which I share in each episode one of my favorite tracks from the 1990s Goa Trance psychedelic dance movement. So, this is the first episode of 2026. We are still in the incredible 1997 to 98 season. So, roughly from the autumn of 1997 through to the end of the summer of 1998. It was a really rich period, unbelievable releases, major evolution in how the music was being produced and the styles of music and the artists, established artists evolving their styles, new artists coming to the fore. So it's been a little bit hard to move on to the 98, 99 season. That will happen soon. But I needed to revisit an a classic, iconic artist album for another track. Now I've already done one, kind of, from this album, and needed to do another track from this one because it's just it. I mean, I remember the impression it made, and it's just so incredibly powerful. And this is from Extreme's Radio Telegram. So previously, in another episode, I featured not the mix that was on this album, but an alternate mix that came out on a CD single and a vinyl single as well, which I prefer. Much prefer it. I heard the original mix on DAT at Richard Purple's place in the Tufnell Park Trance Mafia headquarters kind of quadrant that we were all living in at the time, and hated it, as I spoke to in that episode. And then once a year later or so, got the CD single as a promo from Blue Room, I was like, whoa, this is what I'm talking about. This, the structure, storyline, everything I loved. So I knew the album was coming. And I was living in Japan when it came out. And I remember very specifically having a wonderful day in the park. It was a national holiday, and I think it was sometime the end of April or the beginning of May. They have a series of national holidays. It's called Golden Week. And I remember spending the day in the park with some friends, and it was just very relaxing. And then walking from that Harajuku district down towards Shibuya and going into the Cisco Techno Shop, which is where everybody bought all their amazing stuff, and seeing, ta-da, this masterpiece. And I was like, yoink, was excited to get my hands on it. And sure enough, I mean, absolutely epic stuff. Now, something that's interesting here is with artists as varied as Extreme, similar to Hallucinogen, Total Eclipse, and some of our other favorites, they produce a lot of different sounding tracks. And there are any number of album combinations that we could imagine with those, right? I actually drew up once a Hallucinogen 1.5 album, with a bunch of the singles that were released between the first and second albums. And it would have made, an amazing flow. And with Extreme, all of these tracks are so killer, but they don't represent, because it's impossible to, the full range of what these incredible artists produce. And so it's a little less melodic, some of the content here. So we don't have something like Stop or STOP. Brain Forest, Coming Soon would come later, no pun intended, and things like that with a much stronger melodic content. So there's some really interesting uh, patterning and evolution that's taking place in the tracks that are on this album, I think. So there is of course, some wonderful melodic stuff, but this is sort of a shift where we're starting to hear some techno elements, some more abstract patterning, shaping, where these sounds take on really multidimensional forms when you're in that giant sonic space with the sound being projected in the context of an event. And Telegram certainly is one of these. Now, in terms of melodic stuff, it's actually on the lower level right? So they've got their amazing, bass lines and some low riffs, but there's not sort of an upper level riff to quite the same extent. But it is a masterpiece, absolutely astounding, and with an incredible spoken sample that, of course, relates to the title. Now, this is taken from the same source as a child I could walk on the ceiling by the Delta, who Marcus from Extreme, was involved with. And I've played a little bit of this sample before in the episode devoted to that iconic track. And there's a couple of other ones on this album that include that, including the last one, Out of Your Control. So let's take a quick peek at the same lady who gave the sample for radio, and it was the same documentary, another lady who was able to walk on the ceiling as a child, and you'll hear where the sample comes from.
So when all those things are going around in your head, what is on the outside?
I'm talking a lot, and at a certain point I start to not become, I've been told, I start to not be easily comprehensible. I'm not incoherent, but it's hard to understand because things are moving so fast in my head that I'm starting to edit like a telegram.
Okay, so a pretty, fascinating sample, and sort of, the words chosen really to put you in a certain frame of mind that has to do with the nature of your consciousness, which is really, certainly, I think a lot of us, when we got into the scene back then, that's what this was. It was an exercise in exploration of consciousness and breaking down boundaries and looking at, what is it we normally see? What is it we normally think and conceive and perceive, and how can that change? And maybe we are already editing, and what happens when you have an unedited version? So, very interesting one for sure. But why don't we get started? Really incredible and iconic track by Extreme, Telegram. So a nice, mysterious, eerie opening. Just, I miss extended mixes in DJ sets, something I like to do, where you just have this pause and you let people marinate in the sounds. It's sort of wonderful, atmospheric sort of sea with all these, there's that harmonic stuff, and then those kind of alien voices. Really sounds like some kind of communication. This little pitch change there. Fascinating upper sound. And then we're going to have this beautiful, beautiful line come in here. Right, so you have that repeated note bass line, but then this really mystical, broody, atmospheric riff. Not a melody per se, but of course, it is melodic. Definitely sets a tone, and then the kick. Only 140 BPM. Right? So it really packs more of a punch in some ways with how the tension builds. Love that resolution up to that note. Notice the rhythms start to come in, these upper frequencies. Such incredible work always with what shows up on what frequency level. So here, there's kind of an implied melody, right, with this rhythmic content and how it's shaped. Same with this one, right? So the previous one predicted this. So, we have pitch and shaping, but there isn't tone like notes on a keyboard. Creative storytelling. There's some really cool trumpeting going on in the background. So just sort of some mild notes that are worked into the riffs here to give a little bit of that harmonic richness. Mysterious voices, noises from the darkness. And right now, this has gone on like how many times? So just in this totally hypnotic loop. Some changes going on in the upper frequencies there. And then, again, thought it was going to break out there, and you just completely lose track of the structure. It's absolutely brilliant. Should be on the next cycle. There we go. Of these sounds. More voices, just coming from, you know, radio dials. Love the electronic bleeps that are worked in there. They're really elegant and refined sounds. That was a game changer. That crispness and sharply defined rhythmic element like that. Nobody was doing that. Together with all of these voices, I mean, this is just really like abstract painting, right? A real rich, multi-dimensional sort of sonic landscape. And we get more of those upper frequencies. Creative break. Just listen to all of the different, again, all the different frequencies, but also the different voices that are happening simultaneously, and they're all exquisitely textured and layered. Then we get that one really smooth legato riff, really mysterious. Ooh, interesting development here. A little pitch bending. Just you don't know where this is gonna head. I mean, just really super creative. Magic. It sounds like dogs barking.
Things are moving so fast in my head that I'm starting to edit like a telegram.
Getting that really crisp rhythmic bit and just a little bit of that telegram noise. Going back into some retro technology there. So you actually only get that telegram note and riff, that kind of sample, for a very brief period. But You get all of the noises in that landscape that really relates to the whole story of needing to edit. There's some sort of quantum soup of information that we're all swimming in. Those mysterious voices. Just the incredible shaping. Now the texture clears a little bit. Then we have that opening mysterious sound, and then the telegram comes back. Some more of those atmospheric noises. And then on the CD, it mixes into radio noise. And it was a brilliant concept where like switching channels between the tracks. So I just did a fade out there. That's what I do when I'm DJing, so I don't accidentally get more radio noise than I want. But what a conception. I mean, what I love is, that the whole storyline has that of the album has that concept, right? Of these tuning into these, each track being a kind of different station that you're tuned into for a different transmission. And I mean, that's really what the parties felt like. What's wild to me is, I remember specifically, I think it's that autumn equinox 1995 party that I've talked about how many times, where it really felt like we were downloading these transmissions. And the thing is, there were no downloads back then in terms of, how we use the term now. We weren't using email. There was no internet that, the general public was using. Certainly not in my sphere. So, the technology followed and became sort of ubiquitous based on these actual experiences that we were having with the music in our consciousness, about sort of things being beamed down and downloaded and, receiving these transmissions. And it was magical stuff. And so this whole concept for this album is absolutely incredible. And also, I'll add, I love the way the BPMs shift throughout the album. It's not a progressive progression, right? Like we tend to hear in DJ sets where everything's the same tempo or it only goes in one direction in terms of speed. So I think that's really important. Something I try to do in my DJ sets is switch things up like that as well. Just like, your heartbeat will go at different speeds, from 1 minute to the next, depending on what's going on. So quite a masterpiece, wouldn't you say? Exquisite engineering, conceptualization, mixing, and storytelling by Rough and Rush, as Marcus and Jan were called in their early releases and also on this album. Hats off, gentlemen. Absolute mastery. And I will sign off here and leave you now with Extreme's masterpiece, Telegram.
things are moving so fast in my head that I'm starting to edit like a telegram.